ID hired the private investigator 3 weeks ago, though part of me had hoped he'd find nothing. That he'd tell me I was paranoid, that my suspicions were unfounded. But the first photograph that slid out confirmed everything. There she was, my wife of 15 years, Sarah, entering a hotel with him. David Chen, my supposed friend and business partner of 8 years. The timestamp read 2:47 p.m. last Tuesday. When Shed told me she was taking our daughter Emma to her dental appointment. My stomach churned as I flipped through more photos. Sarah and David at restaurants, at his beach house in Carmel, entering his downtown office after hours. The final photo made my blood run cold, Sarah handing David what appeared to be documents. Documents I recognized from my own desk drawer. Our company's confidential financial records. I closed my eyes, remembering the conversation from 6 months ago when Sarah had first suggested I bring David in as a partner in my struggling tech consulting firm. He has the connections we need, James, Shed said, her hand on my shoulder. Think about Emma's future. We can't keep living paycheck to paycheck. ID trusted her judgment. ID trusted them both. The sound of Emma's laughter drifted through my car window. I looked up to see my 13-year-old daughter walking up our driveway with Sarah, both carrying shopping bags. Emma's dark hair, so like her mother's, bounced as she walked. My heart constricted. How could Sarah risk destroying our family like this? I stepped out of the car, the envelope tucked under my arm. Sarah's smile faltered when she saw me home early. Dad. Emma ran to hug me. Mom got me new soccer cleats for the tournament this weekend. Will you help me break them in? I hugged her back, breathing in the familiar scent of her strawberry shampoo. Sure, sweetheart. Why don't you go try them on? I need to talk to your mom for a minute. Sarah's eyes followed Emma into the house before turning back to me. You're home early. Everything okay at work? Interesting choice of words, I said quietly, pulling out the photos. Why don't you tell me how work is going for you? Specifically, your afternoon meetings with David. The color drained from her face. For a moment, she said nothing. Then, James, I can explain. Explain what? How you've been sleeping with my business partner. Or how you've been helping him steal company information. My voice remained low, but I could hear the tremor of rage in it. How long, Sarah? How long have you been planning to destroy everything I've built? It's not what you think. She reached for my arm, but I stepped back. David has connections, resources. He can save the company. By stealing it from me. I slapped the photo of her handling company documents onto her chest. I saw the paperwork he filed, Sarah. He's trying to force a hostile takeover. And you've been helping him. Tears welled in her eyes. I did it for us, for Emma. Your company is failing, James. You're too proud to admit it, but we're months away from bankruptcy. David has a plan. A plan that involves betraying your husband. That makes it okay. Dad. Emma's voice made us both freeze. She stood in the doorway, one new cleat on her foot. What's going on? Sarah quickly wiped her eyes. Nothing, sweetie. Just grown-up stuff. Why don't you? Don't lie to her, I cut in. You've done enough lying for all of us. I turned to Emma, my heart breaking at the confusion and fear on her face. Your mother and I need to have a serious talk. Can you go to your room for a while? But you promised to help with my cleats. I know, and I will. Just, give us a little time, okay? Emma looked between us, then slowly nodded and disappeared inside. The sound of her bedroom door closing echoed in the tense silence. I want you out, I said finally, my voice barely above a whisper. Pack a bag and get out. James, please. I have evidence of corporate espionage, Sarah. Evidence that you helped David steal proprietary information. Do you understand what that means? You could go to jail. She paled further. You wouldn't. Wouldn't I? You've taken everything from me. My trust, my company, my voice broke. My wife. The mother of my child. How could you do this to us? I never meant to fall in love with him, she whispered. The words hit me like a physical blow. Love. Not just an affair, not just business. Love. Get out, I repeated. You have 30 minutes. I'll have my lawyer contact you about divorce papers. What about Emma? What about her? I laughed bitterly. You should have thought about Emma before you decided to blow up her family. You can explain to her why mommy chose her lover over her family's happiness. Sarah stared at me for a long moment, tears streaming down her face. Then she turned and went inside. I heard her footsteps on the stairs, drawers opening and closing. I sat heavily on the front steps, my head in my hands. Through the fog of pain and betrayal, one thought crystallized: I had to protect Emma. From the fallout, from the inevitable legal battles, from watching her family crumble. And I had to make sure Sarah and David paid for what they'd done. The sound of a suitcase being wheeled down the stairs made me look up. Sarah stood in the doorway, her face tear-stained but composed. Can I at least say goodbye to her? I shook my head. Not today. Let her process this first. You can call her tomorrow. Sarah nodded slowly, then walked past me to her car. As she loaded her suitcase into the trunk, she paused. I do love her, James. And I did love you, once. Get out, I said for the third time. I didn't watch as she drove away. Inside, I could hear Emma crying softly in her room. I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself. I had to be strong now, for her. But first, I had a call to make. I pulled out my phone and dialed a number I'd hoped never to use. It rang twice before a gruff voice answered. Marcus. It's James Walker. Remember that favor you owe me? I need your help. It's time to make some people pay for their mistakes. The voice on the other end was silent for a moment. This about the Chin situation. You knew. I hear things. Been waiting for you to figure it out. Come by the office tomorrow. Bring everything you have. I ended the call and stared at the phone. Marcus Brady was the kind of lawyer who operated in gray areas, who knew how to hit people where it hurt most. ID helped him out of a sticky situation years ago, and had promised to return the favor someday. ID never thought ID needed. Dad. Emma's quiet voice came from behind me. Is she coming back? I turned to face my daughter, her eyes red from crying, still wearing one new soccer cleat. In that moment, I made a decision. Sarah and David had chosen their path. Now I would choose mine. They thought they could take everything from me. They had no idea what I was capable of. But first, my daughter needed her father. Come here, sweetheart, I said, opening my arms. Let's talk about those new cleats. And then he'll tell you everything. The sun had set completely now, leaving us in the growing darkness of evening. As I held my crying daughter, I began to plan. Sarah thought she was protecting our daughter's future. She had no idea what protection really looked like. By the time I was done, David Chin would lose everything he'd built, and Sarah would learn the true price of betrayal. But that would come tomorrow. Tonight, Emma needed me. And unlike some people, I knew where my priorities lay. I smoothed Emma's hair, feeling her tears soak into my shirt. It's going to be okay, I whispered, not sure if I was trying to convince her or myself. We're going to be okay. But in my mind, I was already 10 steps ahead, mapping out the destruction of the two people who had betrayed me most. They wanted to play games. Fine. But they were about to learn that every game has its price. And this one. This one would cost them everything. That night, sleep refused to come. I lay in our bed, my bed now, staring at the ceiling as memories played like a cruel slideshow in my mind. Sarah's laugh at our wedding. The day we brought Emma home from the hospital. Family vacations, birthday parties, quiet Sunday mornings. 15 years of life, love, and lies. The sound of soft footsteps in the hallway pulled me from my thoughts. My door creaked open, and Emma's silhouette appeared. Dad. Are you awake? Come here, sweetheart. I patted the space beside me, Sarah's side of the bed. Emma crawled in, just like she used to do during thunderstorms when she was little. I keep checking my phone, she whispered. Mom hasn't even texted. I wrapped an arm around her shoulders, swallowing the surge of anger. Of course Sarah wouldn't text, she was probably too busy with David, planning their next move. Sometimes adults make selfish choices, but that's not your fault. Never your fault. Did you know? She turned to look at me in the darkness. About Mom and Mr. Chen. The question hung heavy in the air. I thought about the signs I'd missed or ignored, Sarah's late nights at work, her new wardrobe, the way she'd started positioning David as the answer to all our problems. I'd been so focused on saving my company that I'd missed my marriage crumbling right in front of me. No, I finally answered. I didn't want to know. Emma was quiet for a long moment. What happens now? It was the question I'd been wrestling with since making that call to Marcus. I knew what I wanted to do, destroy them both, take everything they had, make them feel the same devastation they'd inflicted on us. But looking at my daughter, so vulnerable and hurt, I realized revenge wouldn't heal her wounds. Still, as I held Emma until she finally drifted off to sleep, my mind was already spinning with possibilities. Marcus Brady wasn't just any lawyer, he was known for finding creative solutions to complex problems. Solutions that weren't always strictly conventional. My phone buzzed with a text. I carefully reached for it, trying not to wake Emma. Marcus, 7 a.m. tomorrow. Bring the PI files and any company documents you can access. And James. Make sure you're ready for this. Once we start, there's no going back. I looked down at Emma's sleeping face, so innocent, so trusting. Then I thought of Sarah and David, probably celebrating their victory right now, thinking they'd orchestrated the perfect betrayal. My response was simple, I'm ready. The game was about to begin, and I intended to change all the rules. 2 weeks after Sarah left, I stood in my office downtown, watching David Chen's empire begin to crumble through the floor-to-ceiling windows. Across the street, federal agents were streaming into his building's lobby. My phone buzzed, a text from Marcus, Phase 1 complete. Turn on the news. I flicked on the wall-mounted TV just in time to see the breaking news banner, Tech mogul David Chen under investigation for securities fraud and corporate espionage. The reporter stood outside his building, describing how anonymous sources had provided evidence of years of financial manipulation and stolen trade secrets. Anonymous sources. I allowed myself a small smile, remembering the carefully crafted paper trail Marcus had helped me create. Every document Sarah had stolen for David was now working against them both, modified just enough to implicate him in years of corporate theft, not just from my company, but from dozens of others. My phone rang. Sarah's name flashed on the screen. After 2 weeks of silence, 2 weeks of Emma crying herself to sleep, checking her phone for messages that never came, now she wanted to talk. I let it ring 4 times before answering. How dare you? Her voice trembled with rage. Do you have any idea what you've done? Funny, I was about to ask you the same thing. I kept my voice calm, professional. How's David handling the attention? The FBI can be so thorough in their investigations. This isn't a game, James. They're freezing his assets. All of them. Even my accounts are being audited. They're saying we could face criminal charges. I heard a door slam in the background, followed by David's muffled voice, tell that bastard if he doesn't call this off. You'll what? I cut in. Steal more from me. Sleep with my wife again. Oh wait, you've already done that. Think about Emma, Sarah pleaded, her voice dropping. What will this do to her, seeing her mother arrested on the news? The mention of our daughter sent a spike of cold fury through me. You lost the right to use Emma as a shield the moment you chose him over her. 2 weeks, Sarah. 2 weeks without a single call or text to your daughter. So don't you dare pretend this is about her now. James, please. We can talk about this. There must be something you want. What I want. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. I wanted a faithful wife. I wanted a trustworthy business partner. I wanted our daughter to have an unbroken home. But we don't always get what we want, do we? A knock at my office door made me turn. Emma stood there, still in her soccer uniform from after-school practice. My anger faltered at the sight of her uncertain expression. Dad. Are you talking to Mom? Sarah must have heard her voice. Emma? Emma, sweetie, is that you? Please, let me talk to her, James. Just for a minute. I looked at my daughter, remembering every tear shed, every night she'd asked why her mother didn't love her anymore. No, I said firmly. You don't get to sweep in now that you need something. That's not how this works. You're making a mistake. Sarah's voice had turned hard. David has connections you can't imagine. People who can. Goodbye, Sarah. Give my regards to the FBI. I hung up as David started shouting in the background. Emma stood in the doorway, clutching the strap of her soccer bag. Was that really Mom? I nodded, crossing the room to her. She's dealing with some consequences right now. Is that why she's on TV? Emma pointed to the news broadcast still playing silently on the wall. They were showing photos of Sarah leaving David's beach house, photos ID made sure would be leaked to the press. Some bad choices have big consequences, I said carefully. Your mom and Mr. Chen, they made some very bad choices. Emma was quiet for a moment, watching the scene unfold on TV. Is this why you've been working late with Mr. Brady? Are you the one making the bad things happen to them? The question hit me like a punch to the gut. How much should I tell her? How much could she understand about justice versus revenge, about the thin line between right and wrong that I was walking? Before I could answer, my phone buzzed again. Another text from Marcus. Chen's board is calling an emergency meeting. Time for phase 2. Are you sure you want to take it this far? I looked at Emma, then at the message. Phase 2 would destroy David completely, and Sarah along with him. It would be the point of no return. But standing there with my daughter, seeing the pain and confusion in her eyes, I realized something important. Revenge might be sweet, but it wouldn't heal either of us. Actually, I said, putting my phone away, how about we skip dinner at home tonight? There's this new pizza place by the pier. Emma's face lit up slightly, her first real smile in weeks. Can we eat on the beach? Like we used to? Sure. I grabbed my jacket, making a decision. And maybe we can talk. About everything. No more secrets. As we left the office, my phone kept buzzing with messages from Marcus, but I ignored them. The revenge plan could wait. Right now, my daughter needed her father more than I needed vengeance. But as we drove toward the beach, I couldn't help wondering, had I already set something in motion that couldn't be stopped? And if I had, was I ready for whatever came next? The sunset at the beach had been beautiful, but the peace it brought was shattered the moment we returned home. Emma had fallen asleep in the car, exhausted from soccer practice and the emotional weight of the day. As I carried her to her room, my phone lit up with an incoming call from Marcus. Where the hell have you been? His usual calm demeanor was gone. Chen's lawyers are making moves. Big ones. They're not just playing defense anymore. I gently closed Emma's door before responding in a whisper. What do you mean? They're claiming entrapment, fabricated evidence. They've got a judge looking into how we obtained those financial records. James. Marcus paused. They're saying they can prove you orchestrated the whole thing. My blood ran cold. That's impossible. The trail we created is good, but not perfect. Chen's got friends in high places, remember? The kind that can make evidence appear or disappear as needed. The sound of shuffling papers came through the line. And that's not the worst part. Sarah's talking. I sank into the hallway chair, my legs suddenly weak. Talking about what? Everything. How you've been unstable since the company started struggling. How you threatened her when she tried to leave. She's painting a pretty convincing picture of a man desperate enough to frame his wife and business partner. The irony would have been funny if it wasn't so terrifying. She's trying to flip the script. And it might work. Chen's lawyers are good. Very good. They're pushing for an emergency hearing tomorrow morning. If the judge grants it. He didn't need to finish. Everything we'd built, all the careful planning, could unravel in an instant. And this time, I'd be the one facing charges. A floorboard creaked behind me. I turned to find Emma standing in her doorway, still in her soccer uniform, very much awake. Dad. Her voice was small. Are you going to jail? The phone slipped from my numb fingers. How much had she heard? How could I explain that in trying to protect her, to punish those who hurt us, I might have made everything infinitely worse? Emma, A sharp knock at the front door cut me off. Through the frosted glass, I could see multiple shadows on our porch. Mr. Walker. A firm voice called out. This is Detective Morris with the Sacramento Police Department. We need to speak with you. Emma's eyes went wide with fear. Dad. In that moment, staring at my terrified daughter while law enforcement waited at our door, I realized the true price of revenge. It wasn't just about destroying Sarah and David anymore. My choices, my desire for vengeance, might cost Emma the only parent she had left. I picked up my fallen phone. Marcus. Whatever plan B is, we need it now. There might be a way, he said slowly. But you're not going to like it. How far are you willing to go to protect your daughter? The knocking grew more insistent. Emma pressed herself against my side, trembling. Whatever it takes, I answered, holding my daughter close. Whatever it takes. Marcus' plan B turned out to be a woman named Catherine Chen. David's first wife. She sat across from me in Marcus' dimly lit office at 3 a.m., her elegant features lit by the glow of her laptop screen. The police had left after a tense hour of questioning, satisfied for now with Marcus' legal maneuvering. Emma was safely at my sister's house, and I was about to learn just how deep the rabbit hole of betrayal really went. I've been building this case for 3 years, Catherine said, turning her laptop to face me. On the screen was a complex web of financial transactions, shell companies, and offshore accounts. David didn't just steal from you, James. He's been doing this his entire career. Including stealing my family's company right after our divorce. Why are you showing me this now? I asked, my mind racing with the implications. A cold smile crossed her face. Because Sarah just made the same mistake I did. She trusted him. Catherine pressed a key, and a new window popped up. Email correspondence between David and Sarah from 6 months ago, long before our company merger was even discussed. This was never about saving your company, Catherine said quietly. David targeted you specifically. Because of me. I don't understand. My family's company. The one he stole. You were about to partner with them before David intervened. He couldn't risk you helping me regain control. She leaned forward. So he sent Sarah. Sent her. The words felt like acid in my mouth. What do you mean sent her? Sarah's been working for David for over a year. She wasn't just his lover, she was his plant. Your entire marriage's collapse was orchestrated, James. Every step of it. The room seemed to spin. That's impossible. We've been married for 15 years. Emma. Is your daughter, Catherine cut in. That part's real. But Sarah? She's been David's associate far longer than you realize. Your marriage was her longest undercover assignment. I stumbled to the window, bracing myself against the cool glass. Below, Sacramento's lights blurred through my tears of rage. 15 years. Every moment, every memory, every kiss and fight and reconciliation, all of it orchestrated. Why tell me this now? Because in exactly 6 hours, David is going to transfer everything, all the stolen assets, all the offshore accounts, to a new shell corporation. One registered in Sarah's name. Catherine's voice hardened. He's setting her up to take the fall. Just like he did to me. I turned back to her. You're lying. Check your phone. A new email had just arrived. From Sarah. James. By the time you read this, it'll be gone. I'm sorry, not for loving David, but for what's about to happen to him. I should have known he'd betray me too. The flash drive in your desk drawer, the one you think I stole last month. It's still there. The one David has is a fake. I couldn't go through with it in the end. Maybe because of Emma. Maybe because some small part of what we had was real. The real drive has everything, the original documents, the recordings of David's plans, and yes, the truth about why I married you. Use it. End this. Tell Emma, tell her I'm sorry. Some lies become real if you live them long enough. S. My hands shook as I lowered the phone. The drive. I checked that drawer 100 times. Catherine smiled. False bottom. Old spy trick. Sarah's good, he'll give her that. I was already moving, calling Marcus as I ran to my car. Within an hour, we had everything. The evidence was overwhelming, stretching back decades. David's entire criminal empire, his manipulation of Sarah, all of it documented in meticulous detail. But I couldn't process any of it. All I could think about was Emma. The sun was rising when I walked into my sister's house. Emma was awake, sitting at the kitchen counter with untouched breakfast in front of her. "Is it over?" she asked quietly. I sat beside her, trying to find the right words. How do you tell your child that their entire life was built on an elaborate lie? That their mother wasn't just unfaithful, but a professional con artist? Mom's not coming back, is she? Emma's voice was steady, more adult than I'd ever heard it. No, sweetheart. She's not. Good. I looked at her sharply. Good? Emma turned to me, her eyes filled with a wisdom far beyond her 13 years. I found Mom's burner phone last month. Saw her texts with Mr. Chen. I heard them planning everything. The world stopped spinning. You knew? She nodded. I sent an anonymous tip to Mrs. Chen. Told her to contact your lawyer. A small, sad smile crossed her face. I couldn't let them hurt you anymore, Dad. I stared at my daughter, my brilliant, brave, incredible daughter, and felt the weight of revenge slip away. All this time, I'd thought I was protecting her. But she'd been protecting me. The police called while you were gone, Emma continued. They arrested Mr. Chen trying to leave the country. And they found Mom's car at the airport, but she was already gone. 3 days later, the story broke worldwide. David Chen's empire crumbled in spectacular fashion. The FBI discovered that his entire business was built on stolen companies, fraudulent deals, and professional con artists like Sarah. Catherine regained control of her family's company. And me? I inherited a mess of legal proceedings and press attention. But I also inherited something else, the truth. And sometimes, that's worth more than revenge. Emma and I moved to Seattle 6 months later, far from the memories and the media circus. She joined a new soccer team, made new friends. I started a small consulting firm, legitimately this time. Sarah was never found. Sometimes I imagine her on a beach somewhere, living on her portion of David's hidden millions. Sometimes I wonder if any of her feelings for us were real. But mostly, I don't think about her at all. Last week, Emma scored her first goal with her new team. As we celebrated over pizza afterward, she asked me a question. Dad, are you ever going to tell me the whole story? About Mom, and everything? I looked at my daughter, the one pure thing to come out of 15 years of lies, and made a decision. How about this, I said, I'll tell you the story when you're older. But for now, let's write our own. She smiled, and in that smile, I saw our future, one built on truth, not revenge. On love, not lies. It wasn't the ending I'd planned when this all started, but maybe that's the thing about revenge, sometimes the best revenge isn't getting even.